really holding us back. You know, one of those things that none of us wants to talk about, or it's uncomfortable to talk about, especially for us Democrats, is around pensions. Well, we actually went out and we've had to reform pensions in San Francisco. It's hard, a lot of hand-holding, but we were able to do it. And I think it's something that California, as a state, could learn from, where we were able to, used to be, if you're a city worker in San Francisco, you work 5 years, you're vested, you get health care for life. It's something that I think is wonderful. And I think it's something that if we could afford it, you should offer everybody. But it turns out we can't afford it. Gary's laughing. Gary's like, you're nuts, Phil. Turns out we can't afford it. Yeah. That's the honest fact. And so we had to create a system where now we have a much more reasoned approach, where now it's, you know, depending on the level of tenure, every year you get a little bit more, but you don't get it all after 5 years. You get after 20 years. And every year you get toward 20, you get a little bit more. Right. That makes sense. It's probably something that we should be looking at a state level as well. One of the issues that I've been talking about that's sort of been the biggest sacred cow, you know, Gary and all the other assessors are kind of like, you know, scratching their heads going, why is Ting talking about this? Has been around Prop 13. And I was in 3rd grade when Prop 13 passed. And I watched what it did to, really I was fortunate enough to be in one of the best school systems in LA and in the state. And I watched it little by little get worse and worse over time. And it's just sort of like little things, right? So you just don't even notice them. But sort of, we were lucky we had a film collection, that was gone. We used to have music and art, all of a sudden that went from being part of the curriculum to something that we could just get rid of. That became optional. Then we decided, well, schools weren't important, we had to consolidate, increase classrooms. And that was something that was sort of optional. And everything else became optional. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And so I've been talking about ways that we could think about reforming Prop 13. They're not easy discussions. They're not even sometimes welcome discussions. But I don't want to watch my daughter graduate high school and ask her how her experience was and hear the same thing, that it got worse and worse for her, and that I didn't do anything about it. Because I think that's what you do in this position. That's why you run for office. That's why you hold jobs and responsibilities. So you don't tell people what they want to hear, but you gotta tell people what they need to hear. Because the previous job, you know, I have some friends who work for the Legal Center now. The previous job that I had, which was executive director of the Asian Law Caucus, was really my dream job. And it was a job that I loved, and I loved doing that work every single day. But I decided to move into this position because I just looked and there weren't enough folks that looked like all of us in the room running for office, being elected officials, representing our communities, taking their responsibility. Folks like John Chung, who's always been a groundbreaker and a leader and a good friend, taking that lead and that responsibility. So I decided to kind of leave my dream job so I could do this job. But for me, I'm going to do this job because we are going to take on tough issues. We are going to work on tough things. And it's like, I'm not going to agree with everybody. We're not going to agree with everybody all the time. But I think what we have to do is be able to come together and work together. And right now, what you see in Sacramento is exactly the opposite of that. Is that you have a bunch of interest groups and everybody has one cap. And no one wants to put theirs on the table. And I think the only time the change is going to come is all of us, if we can all work together so that we can put each of those things on the table and go after it. Because it's like, unless you give up something and everyone gives up something, nothing's going to change. So I'm very excited to talk about and to work toward reforming Prop 13. I think it's very needed. It's very excited. And at this point, we've had a very positive response from a lot of electorate and a lot of very angry responses. But that's okay. Because at least now we're talking about it. Because before, when I first raised the issue, it was sort of like, you couldn't even talk about it. You couldn't even raise the issue. So let me just stop there and just thank everybody, thank all of you for coming tonight. It's really an honor, again, like I said, for all of you, especially from LA, to come out on the Thursday night. I'm sure you all got better things to do than listen to the assessor from San Francisco talk. But again, I really appreciate the support. It means a lot to me. It's extremely important. And without your support, I don't get to stay in office. That's the bottom line. And I think the only way that our communities get to move forward is if we can help each other move each other forward. So again, thank you so much for coming tonight. And you know, got a lot of wine, got a lot of food. Please eat up. And if there's any questions, I'll take them. And if not, I'll let everybody get back to the most important thing, which is eating and drinking.